Hello and welcome to this webinar. My name is Jonathan Cook and I am with Code Studio, a zoning consultant firm for this project, Richmond's Code Refresh. This will update you on where we are in the process, and I'm happy to announce that the draft zoning maps and districts and regulation documents are currently available. So today, the session will quickly walk you through an introduction to Code Refresh. It will provide you an overview of the draft zoning maps and districts. Then I'll take you through the resources available for providing feedback. So first of all, Code Refresh is a project that implements the goals of Richmond 300, which was completed in 2020. Code Refresh is also informed by robust community outreach through a continuous process of meeting with an advisory council, as well as multiple working groups and roundtables. Code Refresh also has the goal to update Richmond zoning districts, zoning map, development standards, and administrative procedures. We need to do this project because Richmond's current zoning is pretty old. It dates to 1976, and there have been changes made over this period of time, but it is not robust enough to implement the Richmond 300 goals. So this code refresh was initiated last year in February of 2024. And through that year, a pattern book was created, a zoning code analysis was performed, and preliminary zoning districts were created with a conceptual framework. Then this year, we were able to begin the process of drafting the actual code, which is broken up into 3 modules that we're calling the zoning ordinance modules. The first of these were presented in June in an open house, which primarily this presentation is talking about. I mean, I'll describe what the 3 modules are in just a second. But the next open house, to make you all aware, is November. Currently between the 17th and 20th, there will be a few events that we'll continue to announce. That process will set up the completing of the draft code through the end of the year. So then we'll be releasing a consolidated draft next February in 2026. So the 3 modules that break down how we actually draft the code right now is first, module 1, identifying the districts, uses, and maps, which basically illustrates how the city is broken up into multiple zones or areas that identify what is allowed within each zone. Then module 2 looks at development standards, which are common between zones, such as sign ordinances or parking standards. And then module 3 will be administration standards, provisions that that help the city administer the other rules that the zones establish. So in June, we announced the results of this first module, which on the left, you can see Richmond 300's land use categories. And on the right, what we produced was the draft zoning map. It has a lot more detail broken down for each area than the Richmond 300 land use categories has. And that's intentional, that because the city has complexity that needs to be shown through these various zoning districts. So the future land use map on the left represents the broad vision and the long-term planning goals for the city, whereas the zoning map on the right describes those specific districts and regulations and where they are allowed. They clearly work together. So there's a vision on the left and implementation on the right, and this summary of the zoning districts illustrate exactly what the implementation looks like. So this first row are the residential or primarily residential districts. Then we get into some more mixed use districts that still have some residential components to them. And finally, we get into more heavy commercial, industrial mixed use, and with some more heavier industrial uses, as well as institutional cemeteries and open space like parks that do not readily assimilate into other districts. So to break these down into a little bit more detail, these first three districts are the detached residential districts that start with a low intensity, low intensity on the left, where no less than 90 feet wide lots are allowed. Then the central RDB district is a medium intensity district with 50-foot width lots. And then on the right is a high intensity detached residential district where no less than 25-foot wide lots are allowed. The next grouping are the attached residential districts with a similar pattern of low, medium, and high. On the left, you can the district allows up to 2 units and an ADU on a lot. And then the RDB medium intensity allows up to 6 units. And then the high intensity allows up to 12 units in a building. The next grouping includes the residential cottage district, which allows both small detached houses and manufactured and tiny homes on a single lot, no less than 20,000 square feet. And this is for to create cottage courts as well as the current manufactured home parcels that exist in the city. The other 2 districts are residential mixed use districts, where residents are the primary use of a building, but there is limited commercial allowed. So respectively, there's a 4-story district and a 6-story district, but with no limits on the specific number of units. Moving on to this cluster of mixed-use districts, we start on the left with a 3-story district, and clearly implied with the name of mixed use, you can do either residential, commercial, in varying different proportions in each building or lot. So there's a 3-story district on the left, then 6-story in the middle, and 8-story maximum district on the right. And this continues up to a 13-story district and an unlimited height district, which clearly have spatial limitations. And so, for example, with mixed use unlimited is located only in the central business district. So then we get into industrial mixed use districts, which are primarily set up for former industrial areas that are in transition. So on the left is a 6-story height limit where former factories are being repurposed because their former uses have left. And then on the right is an 8-story district, which is just a similar variation, but with a slightly more intensity allowed. Moving on, there is still a need for some auto-oriented commercial in parts of the city, and so this first one on the left, called Commercial General, allows for up to 4 stories, but we're still implying better practices within this auto-oriented district to still allow change in the future if the auto-oriented uses are less desired in the future. Then in the center is a light industrial district for low impact activity. So most of that activity is conducted indoors. There's ability to have some outdoor storage as an accessory use. But then on the right is a heavy industrial district that necessitates careful planning because it includes high impact industrial activity. Finally, we'll look at the districts include an institutional district for large institutions, both public and private. These include the City Hall, the State House, assembly places, schools, universities, hospitals, and large church properties, for example. In the center are a district for cemeteries. Then on the right is an open space district, which includes either conservation areas or parks and playfields. So obviously, these districts abut each other and they necessitate transition standards. So this is what we are still currently working on, but we'd like to point out that the condition above is not what we would like to see, where there is a stark contrast between, in this example, an RDB district and an MX6 district. Instead, we're looking into the right dimensions that allow transitions between these two districts, as you can see below, where both setbacks from the property line and stepbacks in the architecture itself help transition between two zones that are quite different from one to another. So moving into resources, we'd like your feedback. As much, like the more feedback you provide, the more we can respond to. So in order to do that, there is the project website that is hosted on Richmond's Planning and Development Review site. You can, if you're looking at this presentation as a PDF, you can click right here on the link, or you can scan the QR code with your phone to get there. But once you're there, there are links to interactive sites for both the maps and the regulation documents, as well as the ability to just open a static PDF version. So first, I'd like to walk you through how to actually use the draft zoning map. This is just a quick screenshot to show you how we've gotten many comments so far, and we're thrilled about that. So quickly switching over there. When you first load the map, it will show you the comments as little pins on the map itself. And on the right side, you can scroll through and see the comments that have been posted. You can click on a comment and it will automatically zoom you in to that location. You can click the comment again and it will hide it. You can also just turn off the comments so you can zoom out and see the whole map itself without any commentary. So when you're not seeing the commentary, you can then look at a whole neighborhood and see for example, here's the fan, and see how there are different zones proposed. That's what these colors are. On the left, you can see, you can scroll through an actual legend of the zones. There's access to what other elements exist on the map itself. You can even click on, well, there are quick links here to the draft and proposed zoning and use regulations, the existing Richmond 300 master plan, and as well as the existing zoning ordinances. But one of the key features to this map is the ability to just hover over a parcel, and on the right, you'll see these parcel details show up where the proposed zoning, the Richmond 300 land use category, and the existing zoning district is identified wherever your mouse lands. And that helps you understand what current conditions are, what the city would like to see with the future land use, as well as clearly what we're proposing. If we turn the comments back on, you can see how these numbers illustrate that there are clusters of comments in a particular area, and that will readjust as you zoom in. In order to leave a comment, you can click this plus sign and select anywhere, whether it's on a map or on a street, or on a parcel or a street. So say we want to comment on this parcel. You can type in your comment. And then leave a comment. You may be prompted here to leave your name and email if you have not already signed in. But once you do that, you can continue commenting and it will remember your name. Going back to the city website, that was this first link. The other link to be able to leave comments is this interactive link for the zoning districts and use regulations. And when you select that, this site will open up. And if you scroll down, this window here is a PDF that we have linked live through an app called Conveo. That's what you can see in the name up here. To be able to scroll through this document and continue leaving comments as needed. So if we scroll down to where some of the districts are described, you can see other people have already left comments. And you can click on these and see what they have said, and you can scroll down and even reply if you'd like. There are the abilities to reply and react. Or you can click yourself, type your name, email, comment. You can categorize it if you'd like, and also post a comment. So through these two different websites, the map and the district, or the documents, the regulations themselves, you'll be able to leave feedback. And I'm going to jump back to the presentation for a second to show a couple of quick examples of pages that you'll want to look for in the draft regulation document itself. So this is an example of pairing of what we call district standards. This one specifically for the mixed use 6-story category district, where we have lot standards broken down that include the lot widths, building coverage, and amenity space requirements for the site, as well as setbacks from the property lines themselves, where parking needs to be located. And then moving on, we get into massing, which is the shape of the building. In this case, it would be 6 stories or 90 feet tall maximum, as well as where different elements within the building need to exist. In this case, residential story heights, non-residential story heights. This active depth describes how the building along the street needs to be used and how big that use extends. And then finally, we get into more detail, such as where the size of windows and how many windows need to be included in the building. And this repeats for each of the districts. Some of the standards are more stringent in certain districts than others, and that's part of the point. Then we move to what we call the rules of interpretation, which breaks down how each district is understood. There are many different rules to be mindful of, and in this case, this shows how building coverage is measured, which is an example of taking the all of the sum of each area of a building and dividing it by the area of your parcel. And that gives you a percentage that's called building coverage, which, if I go back a slide, is a requirement right here in the lot standards. Then finally, we also show what's called the use table, where within each district, which receives a column here, there are different uses allowed within that district. And in this case, we call it permitted by right, or C is for conditional, which requires some additional review from the city. Permitted with an asterisk, it takes you to a place where additional standards need to be applied. And then this little dash says which uses are not permitted within a particular district. And a more complete table is available for review in the documents. And finally, I'd like to thank you for listening to this webinar, and please reach out to the city if you have any questions. Thank you so much.